Hello there everyone, in today's video we take a look at Nicola Sturgeon's tax return. Following on from my video that I did on Rishi Sunak's tax return, this is Nicola Sturgeon's 21-22 tax return. So the year ended 5th of April 2022. Now, as she is a Scottish politician living in Scotland, there are different rules for income tax bands up there, which I will explain to you. So let's just dive straight in. P60, what was on Sturgeon's P60? 140,000. So that was her salary with the extra bits for being First Minister of Scotland. 140. Now, bank interest, £5 of bank interest. Office cost provision. So this is the benefits that she receives for running her office. So on a tax return, this is extra income that she has to declare. £17,199. So that's paid to her, and she's meant to use that for expenditure in her office. So it's taxable. Next thing, other benefits, 665. What was that? I don't know. Maybe it was private medical insurance. Sounds about right. But other benefits from the Scottish Parliament, 665. Now, other expenses, 17,199. Now this exactly matches the office cost provision income that she got. So the two of them cancel each other out. So of the £17,199 that she got from the Scottish Parliament to help run her office, she used a lot. She expensed a lot. That went in. So basically on a tax return, it's just an in and an out. There's no taxable profit on that. Total income, therefore, the sum of all this lot, 141,166. And she paid income tax of 51,509. Now, PAYE, in this case, the PAYE system more or less did its job, did what it was supposed to do, and took off her salary over the course of the 12 months to the 5th of April 22, 51,237, leaving her with a income tax bill to shell out of £272. So, that's her income tax for that 21-22 year. Now, what caught my eye was the fact that it was very interesting because Sturgeon actually published her tax return itself. Unlike Sunak, where his accountants just summarised it, and I mentioned there was a few things we would have liked to have known, but pretty much it was a full comprehensive summary, but Sturgeon's was the actual tax return, redacted for her NI number and her UTR, various things, but there was the actual tax return. So look at, in the tax world, we as advisors, we often go to what's called the white space. And the white space on a tax return is basically taxpayers' chance to just write a lot of stuff to the taxman and say, look, this is some additional information that you need to know about. And what was in the white space on Sturgeon's tax return was all to do with her pensions. So, particularly annual allowance. Now, annual allowance, as you know, is the amount of money that you can put into a pension every year. And if you exceed the annual allowance, then you get clobbered for tax. Now, in her case, she exceeded the annual allowance in the 21-22 tax year. And written in the white space, it says, dear Mr. Taxman, I have exceeded my annual allowance to the tune of £18,331. So she over-contributed to a pension fund as far as the annual allowance rules are concerned. She put in 58,331 when the rules at the time were 40,000. So she was £18,331 over. Now, when that happens, you have a choice as a taxpayer. You've got to pay the tax on that at 40, whatever percent it is in Scotland. I'll come on to that. But the point is that paying of that tax charge for having too much go into your pension that year, you can either pay it yourself via your tax return, but she chose not to do that because I just said she's got a tax bill of 272 quid, or you elect for what's known as scheme pays, which means your pension fund foots the bill. And how it does that basically means that in the future, when you retire, you get less pension than you otherwise would had you not got clobbered for this, because some of your pot, your pension pot, is used to pay this tax charge. And that's what she's done. She elected for scheme pays rather than she cough up the money to add to this 272 quid that she owes, which is perfectly in her rights to do so. Interestingly enough, her friend 400 miles down south, Sunak, and the gang last week, Jeremy Hunt, announced an increase in this 40 grand to 60 grand. So had that 60 grand, the new rates, have been in when she did this tax return, she wouldn't have got clobbered for the excess annual allowance charge, because even with an extra 18 grand, she still would have been under 60 grand threshold at 58,000 contributions. Anyway, there you go. So that was interesting. That was interesting. She had no carry forward as well. It said it had no carry forward. You remember I've done videos on pensions where even though you may have busted the 40 grand in a year in isolation, if you haven't done so for the previous 3 years, you can bring forward that capacity to adjust to that 40 grand for the current year. Anyway, she had no brought forward capacity. 21-22, she did 58. She was hit for an annual allowance charge. That's just the way it is. So she elects for scheme pay. So those are the interesting bits, for a tax advisor to look at. But also, I thought I'd just share with you the actual rates of tax, because for many people south of the border, they wouldn't have a clue about all these different rates in Scotland. Why would you? In England, we have basic rate, we have higher rate, and additional rates. Those 3 rates. In Scotland, you've got 5 rates of tax. So let's just have a little dive in. So I've already said that Sturgeon's actual tax liability for the year was just over 51 grand, which PAYE did its job and covered most of it. So how was that 51,000 made up? Let's have a look. So the Scottish rules say this. Similar to the English rules, if you earn more than over 100 grand, you get your personal allowance clawed back. So she's got no personal allowance. So all of this income that she's got straight into tax, no tax-free allowance. So rules in Scotland, you've got a starter rate. So it's called a starter rate, and this is on taxable income between 12,571 and 14,667. It's a small slice, it's only £2,100, but that's at 19% income tax. Then you've got earnings, taxable income between 14,668 and 25,296. That's called the basic rate, and that's taxed at 20%. But then you also have another new one to as far as we're concerned with in England, we never heard of this, is intermediate rates. The intermediate rates kicks in on taxable income between 25 grand and 43 grand. So that's an 18 grand slice. And that intermediate rate, 21%. And then we have higher rates. And the higher rate is between 43,500, 43,663, up to 150,000. And that is at 41%. And then anything above 150,000 is called top rate, and that's taxed at 46%. So, like I said, in England we have the basic rate, the higher rate, the additional rates, but in Scotland they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they've got these extra ones. The extra ones, they've got this starter rate and this intermediate rate, but also the bandings aren't aligned either. So you've got 19%, 20%, 21%, and 41%, and 46%. Sturgeon wasn't in the 46 category. She never got beyond 150 grand of earnings, of income, taxable income. So you do all the math, and that's how you get your 51,509 income tax bill. So just quite interesting there. I mean, I must admit, I don't come across Scottish tax that often, and this was, I had to refresh all this stuff, but a little bit more complicated than south of the border, but there you go. So if you like this video, please do subscribe, and as always, I will see you soon.